Well, in a budget briefing, any question can be thrown as long as it's still related to the budget. Because when we deal about the budget, we're talking about where taxpayers' money are going to. Nagulat din kagabi nga when I was about to rest and retire in bed, I got the surprise of my life when I saw the exchange between Senator Risa Hontiveros and the Vice President, Ma'am Sara Duterte. Kasi parang alam mo siguro merong galit sa loob na nakakimkim. And then pagdating doon, nagkakaroon ng mali siya sa bawat tanong. Because if like there's a question on there is a book, then the answer can be yes and no, and you can expound. Kasi the Office of the Vice President has all the powers to identify their priority programs.
Just to follow up, do you think yung mga tanong ni Senator Risa Hontiveros were warranted? Na parang, kasi sabi na nga nung ni Vice President, pinupulikta raw. Pero do you think the questions were really about the budget or the proposed budget?
When we have budget briefings and budget deliberations, you look at each line item. O ito, ginamit ba ito pambili ng office supplies? Ito, ginamit ba ito para sa travel? Ito, ginamit ba ito para sa mga employees? Ganun eh. So, if there's an item there pertaining to the publication of a book, then almost always, there will be a legislator who will question that. Siguro may mga mali siya, may mga bumulong, may mga nang-intriga, kaya tuloy ang napasagot ni VP Sara is parang pinersonal niya. Parang kapareho kasi yan dun sa, uy, pinapa-impeach ka. Pagdating dito sa Kongreso, syempre parang off na kaagad, preconditioned yung mind niya probably na yung mga kaharap niya ay masasamang tao kasi may nang sulsol. That's why as government officials, it's really very important for us to be wary about the sulsuleras and the mga marites because these are good to accept and palusutin kung mali because they will also have their own vested interest. In this case, baka na before pa siya dumating doon, merong mga nang-intriga kaya tuloy ang pananaw niya, maski anong tanong, akala niya politicized. But
book, so hindi ko pa alam. Pero kung nabasa siguro nila pareho yung libro, baka naging friends pa sila. pero hindi friendship eh. So, pero ang masasagot namin naman po is on the part of the House. So, dito po sa House of Representatives, syempre pag may schedule na po yung budget briefings ng House, kailangan po yung agency na haharap. Kung sino man po yan or sinong head ng agency, dapat po nakahanda sila kasi nakahanda din po yung House para sa budget briefings. At this point siguro lahat na ng hindi aayon o hindi tutugma sa nais nila, magiging pamumulitika na po saka politicking, sabi nga nila. Pero like yung libro, hindi naman po pamumulitika yun eh. Tinatanong lang naman po kung anong laman ng libro, saan gagamitin at ano po yung purpose ng libro. So yung mga simpleng bagay na gano'n, hindi naman dapat automatic defense yung pamumulitika na lagi yung isasagot. Kasi nga, pwede naman pong sagutin ng tama lahat ng mga tanong na pwedeng factual at yung sa Quadcom na-address naman nila yon na yung mga tanong na nakaturo sa kanila, each individual, they will answer at their own expense. Parang ganun, sila po yung sasagot dun sa mga bawat tanong. So, parang hindi po tama na laging ang depensa mo na lang pamumulitika o nape-preempt po nila na may ganitong mangyayari, pati yung sa impeachment, natatouch nila, pre-preempt nila. Parang ang dating biktima. Parang biktima na sila lahat ng circumstansya. Sagutin nila ng tama yung mga tanong, sagutin nila ng tama yung mga aligasyon, at lalabas naman ang katotohanan sa mga investigasyon ng Quadcom.
In addition to that lang po siguro, no, just for us to recall, yung Quadcom po, prior to the creation of the Quadcom, napakaraming hearings na po yung individual na 4 committees. As early as I think, upon sitting, 2022 pa lang po, nagkaroon na po ng hearings. And I think the reason for the creation of the Quadcom was yung interrelated issues and personalities. Na kung maalala po natin, at least before lumabas po itong si Jimmy Guban, Yung naging tying factor po dito, when we look at yung issue on public accounts, dun sa warehouses, it would lead to corporations at which interlocking directors would be owned, which lead to Michael Yang. When we look naman po sa dangerous drugs, yung drug shipment po that they were tracking would be related to those warehouses which were owned by those interlocking corporations. Tapos pag tingnan po naman natin yung public safety and order, lumalabas po dito yung POGOs, which also are interrelated with those companies, and lumalabas naman yung name na Michael Yang. And now we have Mr. Jimmy Guban, who now, aside from mentioning Michael Yang, mentioned these other personalities. And I think to claim that it is politicking ngayon po, just because nabanggit yung mga pangalan na yun, it would be a disservice naman po to the rest of the hearings in which we've already tackled so much. Kumbaga po, to raise the issue now, na because these names were, matagal na pong yung build-up po nitong committee hearing. So I think it would be a bigger disservice not to see it through. Now, whether or not these personalities mentioned, and as with any witness naman po, we will have to ascertain the credibility and the veracity of their statements. And actually, sa totoo lang po, personally, parang hearsay pa rin po ang mga sinasabi ni Mr. Jimmy Guban. So until they are fully threshed out, di po natin masasabi po talaga na doon po yung direction. But I think it would be unfair to say na politicized po siya. Kasi po, hindi pa nga po tapos yung hearing, nababahiran po, na-deflect na po, no? If we say parang nakukulayan na po yung motives, then it would be unfair po, especially in light of all the nangyayari doon dito sa Pogo po. Yun na po.
Idadagdag ko lang po, no. Umupo po ako doon sa mga tatlong committees na ito during the course of the investigation since last year. It started last year. So actually, itong mga yung mga investigation, parang parochial yung concern, no. In fact, yung mga other congressmen are the members of the committee kasi meron din ho silang mga priority bills and resolutions sa other committees. Umuupo sila doon just to form a quorum. Then afterwards, lumilipat po sila sa mga committee kasi we thought all the while that these are all parochial concerns. Now, as it progresses, itong apat na committee na ito, sa na-mention po ni Kong Rodge, may lumilitaw na common na pangalan. Michael Yang, Michael Yang, Michael Yang. So, na-establish yung relationship ng mga concerns ng public accounts, yung link niya sa illegal drugs, dangerous drugs, sa link naman niya sa human rights at link niya sa public order. So, napansin po namin ng mga members nitong committee na ito, teka lang, parang iisa yung mga same guests ang nai-invite. Tapos whenever we talk about, halimbawa, whenever we talk about fake passports, kasi lumalabas po yan during the investigation, may nagsasabi, wait, pinag-uusapan na yan sa other committees. No? Kasi ang mga committee po dito, meron po silang parameters, meron pong mandate, meron pong kumbaga meron pong jurisdiction ang bawat committee na hindi dapat maging cruise sa other committee. So, lahat ng karamihan sa mga guests, similar guests ang umuupo, hindi naman po trabaho din ng ating mga guests na umupo at mag-attend sila sa mga committees na ito. So, the chairman decided that, teka lang, merong mga may interlocking, no? Tama nga yung sinabi ni the word is interconnectedness ng lahat ng issues that are now are investigating by these 4 separate committees. Tapos, why not make it into a quad committee? Kasi isa naman pala yung papatunguhan. Isa yung mga lumalabas ng mga pangalan, the same guests ang nag-a-appear. Since last year pa ito. So, I guess, very clear po yung my explanation from the start. And to say that this Quadcom is merely to attack personalities or family, it's I think for me, it's quite reductive to say that the Quadcom, with all this history and all the efforts that we have done and all the things that have investigated by the NBA and the PAOK-TF and all of these law enforcement agencies to come up with a solid policy and law that would not only correct the wrongs but hold those people responsible for trampling the laws and violating our laws, accountable, and then make it appear as it is directed to a certain individual or certain family. It's, to me, it's quite reductive naman, no? We are trivializing the issue. This is a national concern, and to characterize it as something that is political is, to me, is trivializing a bigger issue, no, which concerns not only the House members of the House, but it concerns the well-being of the entire country, no, kasi it borders now to illegal transnational crimes, which I believe is a concern of each and every one of us.
Answered this before na, di ba nga, nakita nga po natin sa crystal ball dati na wala naman pong ganun na balita. Pero siguro, i-identify na lang niya yung mga friends niya na nagsabi para yung mga friends niya ang magsabi kung tama po yung mga nakukuha nilang informasyon mula sa grapevine. But dito po sa House of Representatives, wala naman pong ganun na napag-uusapan.
Sa ilang oras at araw na ginugugol ko dito sa Kongreso ay hindi ko narinig yun. Ganun kasi talaga ang public service eh. Meron kang mga kaibigan na totoong kaibigan, pero meron ka namang kaibigan na gusto nilang may action. Sometimes itong mga action na ito makes them more important. Kaya ito yung mga bagay na dapat worry yung ating Vice President. Kasi ang hirap nung may magre-report pero walang basihan at pagkatapos dun nakafocus tayo. In fact, napakasayang nung oras na napupunta sa usaping wala namang kwenta at wala naman talagang nangyayari. Again, I haven't heard talks of an impeachment. Hindi ko rin siya nakita dun sa ating mga kasamahan. Lahat busy sa pag-scrutinize at pagpapasa ng budget. And more importantly, kung sino man yung mga nang-iintriga, sana sabihin kung sino-sino sila para malaman natin kung ito ba ay may vested interest, ito ba ay tila linilin lang yung ating Vice Presidente, o ito ba ay gusto lang ng fireworks dahil walang magawa sa buhay.
In addition to that po, I think on our part, ang magagawa lang po namin is to confirm po siguro na at least sa amin, wala po kaming naririnig na ganung mga allegations, wala namang usapan ng impeachment po dito sa House. In fact, ang naririnig po namin usually is nahirapan yung mga congressman na bumalik sa kanilang mga distrito dahil overtime na po sila dito sa budget deliberations. Meron pa po tayong, for the first time in a while, deliberations na nga po sa budget appropriations. Meron pa rin po tayong mga concurrent committees. I believe yesterday there was the Committee on the Oil Spill. Of course, we have the Quadcom. And in addition to that po, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung BPSF. There is quite the coordination po between the executive and the district representatives yung sa legislation. If you recall po, we had the BPSF Agent Summit nung Monday, and there was recognition po ng part ng Congress po doon na bilang representatives mga tao in their districts, sila po yung nagiging agent together with the executive sa pagbaba ng BPSF. So I think doon pa lang po sa BPSF, sa House deliberations, plus yung ongoing committees, napaka-busy po ng mga congressman, congresswoman po natin dito. So I'm not sure po kung saan nanggagaling yung allegation of impeachment. If they could perhaps, kagaya ng sabi ni Kong Ortega, if they could substantiate the claims and say sino pang nagsasabi nito and point at certain persons, then perhaps that would be more helpful for us to really thresh out. But as far as we're concerned, parang wala naman po.
Meron pong kasabihan na one word is enough for a wise man. Ilang beses na po itong nasabi na wala pong katotohanan yan. I hope this rumor mongering would stop. Kami po dito sa House of Representatives, ito pong apat na mga kasamahan ko po dito. Every day po, every session week, every committee hearings, public hearings, nandirito po kami. And I personally can categorically say na wala pong usapin na ganun. Dahil ang liderato po ng House of Representatives under Speaker Martin Romualdez, ang pinupush po natin dito sa House of Representatives, paano po isulong ang ating bansa, magkaisa ating bansa patungo sa matiwasay, no? Matiwasay na gobyerno. Dahil nakikita nga po natin, apart from the legislative work that we do here, we also go down to our communities, no, different districts and provinces, to bring closer the services of the government to the people. Ganun po talaga ang priority ng House of Representatives. It also speaks about bridging gaps and uniting communities, no, for the prospect of, bringing together all communities na para doon sa pagsulong ng ating bansa. It also speaks about, I guess, no, itong usapin, no, kasi itong sinasabi nilang issue or rumor, alam po ng namin dito at alam po ng liderato ng House of Representatives, this is counterproductive to the work that we're doing right now. Itong usaping impeachment, alam po natin, no? That's why we don't put credence on the issue, because alam mo natin that this is not only this create disunity, create chaos politically, but it also counters. It's counterproductive, and it counters the efforts and the positive result of everything that we have done and everything that we continue to do.
Kuya Ray, mag-follow up lang po ako.
Go ahead.
Last week po, the House Committee on Appropriations approved the motion to subpoena the findings of COA regarding the utilization of confidential funds of the Vice President as well as the Department of Education from 2022 to 2023. Whatever the findings may be, will this be sufficient enough to file an impeachment complaint against the Vice President?
Let's cross the river. Let's cross the bridge when it comes. No, unang-una kasi, if I recall if my memory recalls me right, the motion came from the Honorable Franz Castro. Whatever her intention was, then we can look into that. Sa pagkakaintindi ko kasi, ang kanyang goal when she was interpolating on the proposed budget of, was this the Department of Education? Yeah. Oh, the Commission on Audit. Her primary goal was actually to prove that indeed allocation of confidential funds should really be put in the proper context. Ibig kong sabihin, ang kanyang punto nung pinapakinggan ko siya at nakakausap namin on the sidelines is she wanted somehow safeguards on where confidential funds should be spent. So sa pananaw ko, hindi naman yun ang intensyon, kundi ang intensyon ay hindi na maulit kung sakasakali meron talagang misuse ng confidential fund.
In addition to that po siguro, of course, like what Congarin said, let's cross the bridge when we get there. We don't want to preempt po kung ano man yung laman ng report ng COA, if ever i-release po nila based on the subpoena. But what we can say po is definitely, yung binabanggit po na grounds, mabigat po ito eh. Impeachment is not a light matter. This is explicitly mentioned by the Constitution. There are very strict grounds for this po. And in addition to the grounds, it is something that should be voted upon by Congress. Hindi po siya basta-basta lang na pag nahanap ng violation, ito, impeached ka na. Hindi po yun ganon. So I think whether or not there would be grounds, you also have to couple it to the question of will it even prosper? Because I think two-step process po yun. You have to first pass the articles of impeachment and then you have to vote on the impeachment itself. So I think these questions naman po, I think it's a very, very long way from there pa po. And I don't think it would be improper for us to comment po on whether that would be sufficient ground or there would be sufficient for impeachment. Yun lang po.
Well, I think very short lang po, no. We really can say because that is actually a part of the regular budgeting process, no. And there's no indication para sa akin, kasi tama nga yung sinabi ni Kong Rodge. There's as of now, there's really no indication that currently, no, that would indicate that it would lead to that, no. Tama nga ang sabi ko kanina, impeachment process is really not only divisive, but it is also counterproductive. No? It counters the the things that we do here in the House of Representatives. We are aiming to really push for the progress of our country economically, socially, issue of peace and order. So when we do discuss all these things, no, it really it basically runs the opposite of what we are aiming here, in the House of Representatives. So it's not only resource-wise, it's too burdensome. It's also politically unwise for me, no? Na yung lahat po ng nagawa ng House of Representatives ay maka-counter just because we need to focus on a certain issue na wala naman pong basihan at hindi po talaga yun ang purpose or na pag-uusapan dito sa House of Representatives. So I don't think, based on your question, there's currently no indication that would lead to me that would lead to that kind of an exercise.
Thank you. From Billionaire TV, Hanati.